Hey guys, welcome back to JDMods. Today we're doing another driving video with my K20Z1 powered Honda Insight. This was a build I did a few years ago, hasn't been on the channel much, but I'm trying to think of what kind of videos to make with it. And I looked back over the videos I've made before, and we did a driving review in the winter time with winter tires on, I think last year. But since then I've got some nice summer tires. These are much wider. The last video had a 165/50 R14s or something like that, so 165 millimeters wide, 14-inch tires. Now I have 205 15s, and they're like a summer compound. I believe these are Nankang NS2s. So much stickier than the winter tires, and it's the summer, so it'll be a lot easier to get an idea of the performance of this car. So similar to the MR2 video we just produced, we're going to take you guys on a little trip with the K-Sight and show you guys how it drives and how quick it is. First, let me give you guys a little walk around. First, I'll show you guys the engine bay. It's a little dirty because it is my winter car, but that's okay. Pretty much the exact same as how I built it. It's been super reliable. The rundown is basically a stock K20Z1. I actually have never checked, but I think it has K24 cams. I'm not sure what the benefit of that would be. Haven't really looked into it too much. It has an aftermarket fuel rail with the 410cc injectors, aftermarket fuel pressure regulator. We're of course running a return style fuel system on this because that's what the Insight had from factory. I've got 6 AN lines all the way back to the fuel pump. This has the Walbro 255 fuel pump in it, K-Pro ECU, K-Tune 421 header, you can kind of see back there, going to a custom 2.5-inch exhaust with high flow cat, resonator and muffler. Not sure what else to say about it. It's on the innovative mounts, which positions the engine quite far forwards. The only downside of that is I wanted to maintain my stock cross member, so I couldn't use the RBC intake that came with this motor. So I had to kind of detune it with the stock intake. Yeah, that's about it. We're just running 91 octane. It's never been to the dyno, but I estimate it makes around 220 wheel horsepower. The K-Series guys might question me on that one, but that's when we bought this. It was an EP3 making 238 wheel horsepower with the RBC intake, and all I did was swap out the intake and do a same size custom exhaust. So I think this should be around 220-ish wheel horsepower. It's hard to say though. I would love to get a dyno tune. The red line is 8,250 RPM, which of course is super fun in a car like this. I've also never weighed this car, but these are fully aluminum, hood, frame, the entire body is aluminum except for the bumpers and fenders are plastic. The estimated weight is around 1,800 pounds without anyone in it. So let's go ahead and take you guys on a drive and we'll see how it does. Before we go on the drive, I'll actually show you guys the new wheel and tire setup, since it's really the only thing that changed since the last video. They're my 15 by 6.5, I believe. Knockoff, just whatever style rims. They kind of look like little baby TE37s, and I've got them wrapped in 205/50 R15 Nankang NS2s. I quite like this tire. I had this on this car, and I think we put it on something else. I can't remember right now. But yeah, I'd highly recommend. This is a good budget tire that seems to work really well in the wet, dry, summer traction. Alright, now let's go for a drive. Alright, so hopefully you guys can hear me over the engine mounts. I guess that's the first thing I'll talk about. I did the swap probably 20,000 kilometers ago. I do daily drive this car in the winter and even in the summer sometimes. And the engine mounts are still very aggressive. The reason for that, if you don't know, is the Insight has no subframe. The K20 is bolted directly on, like, to the engine bay. So when you go with harder mounts in a normal Honda, you still have the subframe mounts to take some of the rattle from your main cluster, the only thing that works is your fuel gauge. The RPM, tach, and temperature gauge, they move, but they're not accurate. That can be fixed with a Dakota digital tachometer and speedometer corrector. That is on my to-do list, and I'm planning on making a how-to video when I do that. But for now, what I've done to fix it is I have this little aftermarket OBD2 gauge, and I've set that up to read in kilometers an hour for my speedometer. We have a working engine temperature, which reads out in degrees Fahrenheit, and we have a tach along the bottom in like a bar graph almost, as well as a battery voltage. This nice little compact gauge can show me all that information, which is all I need really. And then over here we have the optional gauges, air-fuel ratio, a non-functional boost gauge that's there for if this ever would need boost, but right now it's just a placeholder. And this is oil pressure, which is a nice addition for, you know, if you get low on oil, this will tell you before anything else will. So that's a good safety precaution right there. So this is actually our last K series car in our garage. We've had 3 total. This is the only one that stood the test of time and not rusted away to nothing. We had Ali's RSX, which was kind of the first car on the channel with my Aristo. We'll do a baby pull here. Alright, what I was saying was we had Ali's RSX and my EP3. They both unfortunately rusted so bad that we had to park them out and get rid of them. This is the only one we have left. It's a lot different than the other two. Ali's RSX was a turbo K20A2, and my EP3 was a turbo K24A2. And of course those made more power, but were heavier for a Honda, meaning probably 2,600 pounds. This is 1,800 pounds with around 220 horsepower. Way different. I really like this naturally aspirated. I do miss the turbo, but with the turbo this would be fun in some aspects, but uncontrollable in a lot of other aspects. So this is the one that's held the test of time. And now I'm going to show you guys why I like driving it so much. We're going to do a few pulls with it and just see how it does. Alright, so I'll show the other nice thing about the Insight. Even in third gear going up a hill from a roll, it has plenty of torque to keep going. So that's great for like highway driving. You can pass people really easily. You don't have to downshift a second to get torque like in some Hondas. I can pass people on the highway in 5th gear without even dropping a gear. Just stomp on it and pass people fine doing highway speeds. So now we're going to do some pulls from a dig. Alright, here goes a first gear pull so you get an idea of the traction. Here we go. the fun fact that the first generation Insight was built in the same factory as the first generation Honda NSX or Acura NSX. They both use similar aluminum welding and